You're listening to Let's Get Iconic, the podcast for visionaries, leaders, creatives, and lovers done playing small. This is where identity expands, vision embodies, and radical self-love becomes inevitable. Because your life is as rich as the questions as you dare to ask and the truth you dare to embody. I'm Vanessa, founder of Inner Icon and the NeuroTrance Method, and this is your invitation to draw a line in the sand, stop shrinking, and become the icon the world is waiting for. Let's get iconic. Welcome to episode 2. Ask a better question because your life is as rich as the questions as you dare to ask. That's exactly it. What are the questions we're asking ourselves on the daily? Face it, our brains like to loop, and so it's important to really look into the questions we're asking ourselves because a lot of the time, these questions are not serving us. In fact, they're creating the blocks that we think we're working really hard to overcome. So sit with this for a moment. What are the questions that you're asking yourself? Because again, your life is as rich as the questions as you dare to ask. And when we discover that we've been asking questions that aren't serving ourselves, it's not time to criticize because that's our go-to, right? It's an invitation to pause and take a good look at the filtering system we're giving ourselves. I believe we have all of the answers. We just haven't been asking the right questions, the empowering questions. Because if you keep asking disempowering questions, you will get disempowered results. So I want you for a moment to just imagine you're holding a compass and you've been walking for a very long time with discipline, with courage, with everything that you have towards creating the life that you want, the leadership you know you're capable of, the love that you know that you deserve. But you've been walking long and hard with this compass, and there's nobody who could question your effort. You've been putting in the work. You've been showing up day after day. But what if that compass has been slightly off? Not broken, just calibrated years ago by someone else in a different time towards magnetic north instead of your true north. The gap between magnetic north and true north may seem small at first, maybe a degree or two, barely noticeable, but over miles and miles and years, that small degree becomes enormous. And it creates a giant distance between where you are and where you actually want to go. I want for a moment to explore that moment just before you're doing something that's really important to you. Whether it's a presentation, a difficult conversation, that first date, a room that you know that you need to show up fully for. When that voice inside says, what if they find out? What if I mess this up? Or what if I underdeliver? What if they find out that I'm not as together as I look? What if they find out I'm not as confident as I seem? What if they find out I'm not enough? That moment, that voice, here's the thing. We've all heard it, and we all will hear it. Every single one of us has heard it and has to deal with it. The most brilliant people I've ever worked with have heard this voice. The most successful, the most accomplished. And here's the thing, that voice, it doesn't discriminate. And it's a beautiful thing to know that it doesn't discriminate, that it's not just us going through it. Because anytime you're going for a grander opportunity, that voice is going to show up. And it's about asking empowering questions instead of disempowering questions. Because again, your life is as rich as the questions as you dare to ask. So here's what that voice is actually doing. And it's not the truth about you. No. What that question is really about, it's your nervous system. Your nervous system learned the question early, before you had the capacity to evaluate whether this was an empowering question for you or not. And it has been running as an operating system ever since. The question underneath the voice is almost always some version of, am I enough? And your brain, being extraordinarily loyal and an efficient system at that, has been answering that question every single day, finding the evidence, confirming the fear, filtering 11 million pieces of reality per second through that one question. Am I enough? Not because this question is true, but because it is the search term. And here's what becomes possible when your nervous system receives a recode. When the question changes, not just in the mind, but in the body, in the subconscious, at the level where the question actually lives, something shifts physically, mentally, emotionally, in who you know yourself to be in your identity. The scanning stops, the constant low-grade monitoring for how you're being perceived tends to get muted. The way it pulls you out of presence and puts you into performance, well, that quiets, and you just end up taking up that space naturally, coming from authenticity. And what comes in its place is not confidence in the way we usually think of it. It's not louder or more assertive. It is that felt sense of being allowed to simply be exactly where you are, exactly who you are, without needing to manage it. And from that stillness, that alignment, that regulation, that recoded nervous system, leadership flows, love flows, creativity flows. Everything that was effort becomes more natural, not because the external circumstances have changed. No, but because the internal frequency has changed. This is what we all deserve, every single one of us, not as a reward for getting it right, just because we're here all together. This is our human right, is to experience that inner peace, to know that we're exactly on time. We're exactly who we're meant to be. And it's up to us to choose what's next from that inner peace. And that's when we create a world so exciting because we've asked new empowered questions. We get new empowered answers, new empowered results, new empowered impact. This is exciting. This is why taking the time to change that compass to make sure it's recalibrated to your true north matters. Because you are the seed. You have something unique that we all need to see you blossom, because we're all here to teach one another. When we expand our horizons, we encourage others to do the same. And it's like we get to watch each other's celebration, inspire each other to be the innovations, to be the resonance that changes the frequency of what is possible. And I'm here to tell you, it's all possible. We've just been asking ourselves disempowered questions over and over and over. And it's time to ask ourselves empowering questions over and over and over, because we love that. So let's figure out how to ask ourselves the questions that excite ourselves, turn ourselves on, because we need to be turned on to what's possible. Because the formula isn't the problem. It's actually an important part of the solution. Think about what this means for you. If your question is, why am I not enough? Or has to do with some aspect of not being enough, then your brain will generate variations. This is why you're not enough, right? But here's the beautiful thing. You can change the question. What does it feel to lead from exactly who I am authentically? Now your brain has a completely different assignment, a completely different search term, a completely different filter for those 11 million pieces of reality. Einstein wrote, imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. He wasn't diminishing knowledge. He was saying that knowledge tells us what has already been proven to be possible. But imagination reaches beyond what has already been proven. Your life is not a problem to be solved with existing knowledge. It is a possibility to be imagined into being, and that's exciting. And your nervous system, once recoded, becomes that instrument through which that imagination takes embodied form. Your brain can't tell the difference between reality and deeply imagined experience. And this is a power tool. Our imagination is the key. We need to ask questions that excite our imagination into what's possible. So here is the NeuroTrance teaching. Your brain processes approximately 11 million pieces of information every second through your senses. Your conscious mind can handle about 40 of them, 40 out of 11 million. The rest is filtered through your reticular activating system, calibrated by your dominant questions and beliefs. So if you are living inside the question of, am I enough? Your brain is filtering all of reality through that lens, highlighting every moment that confirms that fear, minimizing the evidence that contradicts it. This is not weakness. This is the most efficient machine ever designed, doing exactly what it was built to do. But here's the thing, the machine does not choose its own calibration. We do. Most of the time, that calibration happens in our childhood, in the accumulated experiences that taught us what to expect from ourselves and the world before we had a cognitive capacity to evaluate those lessons. But we can recalibrate it, not through willpower, not through positive thinking, even though those are wonderful things to utilize, not through knowing more, but going through that subconscious recalibration at the nervous system level in your body and changing it from the inside out. When this happens, when the nervous system actually receives the recode, the body knows before the mind does. This is where the physical shifts. It's a coming home to something that was always true, but that old question of, am I enough, was really blocking you to feel at home where you've always been meant to feel at home this entire time. It's just this big misunderstanding that has happened from generation to generation. And again, if we don't heal it, we deal it. If we heal it within ourselves, we get to have that time machine moment. When we take the onus on ourselves to do this healing, we become a time machine. We gift the past by healing the past in this present moment and therefore healing the future. This is empowerment, and it's available to every single one of us. This is the NeuroTrance process. This is what becomes available when we dare to ask better questions, empowered questions. Maya Angelou made famous the words, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." Angelou was not talking about performance. She was talking about presence, the kind of presence that is only possible when you are not spending enough energy managing questions rooted in fear. Angelou herself lived this at the most profound level. She experienced devastating trauma in childhood. At 8 years old, she stopped speaking for 5 years. She didn't speak, believing that her voice had caused harm, that to be silent was to be safe. And in that silence, something happened that could not have happened any other way. She listened, not to noise, but to something deeper, to the questions that were genuinely hers. And when her voice came back, and when she finally gave herself permission to let it out, it came back as one of the most profound literary voices of the 20th century. Not despite the silence, because of what she found inside it. Now let's go back to that compass, that moment that calibration shifts, that moment that your true north becomes your operating frequency. You no longer have to discipline yourself towards it anymore. You just walk. You are recalibrated to your true north because the instrument is now pointing at something real, something yours. That is what a Recode question feels like in your body. Not effort, not performance. It's like coming home, standing in your power. And now I'd like to leave you with some empowering questions. Let these land in your body. Let them open to something real inside you. If we're going to be the change we seek out in the world, we have to ask ourselves empowering questions. And these questions should be in leadership and in love, because those are the vibrations that will create the change we want to see in the world. For leadership, what question has been running underneath the performance? Is it a question born of fear or of genuine power? And let me ask you this empowering question. What does it look like for you to show up exactly as you are and to lead from there? And for our heart center, let's ask ourselves this. Are we performing love or are we experiencing connection? And what does it feel like to be fully known and fully loved? Have we even allowed ourselves to be seen? And in terms of radical self-love, Einstein said imagination encircles the world. Your imagination is the most powerful instrument that you have. Where have you been using it against yourself, rehearsing the fear, confirming the old, disempowered stories? And what does it mean as an act of profound self-love to recalibrate it towards the truth of who you actually are and who you're actually becoming? Because you get to choose who you become. And I'd like to end with this one question, because again, your life is as rich as the questions as you dare to ask. What is the one question, if you dared to ask it and let your nervous system actually receive it, that could change everything? Write it down. Let it be your compass. Find your true north. This is your life. Live it. It's right here. It's right now. Ask yourself the empowering questions so that you can be who you want to become, because it happens right here, right now. We all deserve to know what we're made of on our terms, in our true north. Not someday, but right now. Until next time, let's get iconic. Icons, thanks for being here. If anything in today's episode landed for you, please share it or do a review. It helps get the work out there. And if you're ready to go deeper, the Salon of Possibilities is your next step. A private transformational session with me you can book right now at inner-icon.com. This podcast is brought to you by Inner Icon, where leaders lead fully and lovers love boldly. Until next time, let's get iconic.